Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. Remember to subscribe to our free podcast so you won't miss any of our inspiring content. Here is episode 132.
When the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual dots in your life are disconnected from each other, chaos happens. Chaos takes place when your body, mind, and spirit are not being fully nourished.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Today's fire starter is Jennifer Dayley. After nearly 18 years of medication and traditional therapy for a long list of mild to severe emotional and physical health issues, which were only getting worse, Jennifer began searching for different answers. Through an unexpected series of events, she was led down the holistic path of healing, all while transitioning to homeschooling her children and making some other major life-changing decisions. She has been medication-free since 2012 and works with clients all over the world, from the U.S. to Canada, India, England, and Australia through her company, The Healing Place. Jennifer is an avid energy and real food coach, helping moms and a few brave men reconnect the disconnect so that they can create their ideal life. She's the creator of Real Food Pantry Makeover and the IDEALife INNERgy healing method. She has also certified in the SimplyHealed Method. As a best-selling author and speaker, she regularly presents at various holistic living, preparedness, and homeschooling conferences, as well as local organizations and church groups. Her other passions include her faith, family, homeschooling, nature, music, reading, cooking, preparedness, organizing, sewing, and all things creative. Find out more at jenniferdayley.com. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
I've been trying to get Jennifer on our podcast for almost the beginning, when I first started podcasting, because she has such a broad knowledge base on thinking outside the box. And that was a good example of all the things that she knows about. But before we get into any of that, please tell our audience a little bit more about yourself.
Oh, about myself. Well, I was born and raised mostly in Georgia. We did move to California and Texas for a few years of that, but I'm pretty much rooted in the South, so that's kind of fun. A lot of people ask me, well, how come you don't have an accent? And it's because I've lived in Idaho long enough now that I've kind of lost that. But if I'm on the phone with my parents or with somebody, from back there, give me about 2 minutes and it comes right back. Yeah, I met my husband. He's actually served a church mission back there when I lived there, and we met. And then he was from Idaho and Utah area, and I came out to Idaho to go to college, and we just kind of hooked up and got to know each other, and it wasn't very long. We were actually engaged within a month. It just all happened really fast. So I stayed out here and didn't go back. I have 4 children and 1 grandchild. 2 married daughters, 1 daughter graduating this year, and a son that's 11 years old. So that's a lot of fun.
And looking at her, you'd never guess that she's got kids that old.
Thank you. I love it. When people tell me that, yeah, I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, thank you. I'll just take it as long as I can get it. Oh my goodness. We've owned several businesses throughout the years. My husband worked with his father in a fiber optics business that took us all over the country. And then we started kind of settling down, ended up having issues with that and had to get out of that after the 9/11 stuff that happened. We've owned a commercial embroidery business and also like an LDS book and gift store and things like that. So now he works for UPS and I own the Healing Place, and that's where we're at now.
That's awesome. Well, and we kind of talked about a little bit of your story, how you came to doing what you're doing now, but really give us a little bit more insight into, how you found your mission and passion in life.
Yeah, I grew up with a lot of just emotional issues. I dealt with depression and anxiety a lot. And then I had some physical issues with my digestive system. a few other things. That was the main thing when I was little, but as I started to get bigger or older, got bigger, as I got older, just more and more things were happening, stuff that doctors would do tests and not have answers for me. I had acid reflux and thyroid issues and just all kinds of things. And anyway, after how long ago was it? Probably about 9 or 10 years ago, I ended up with a bowel obstruction and had surgery. And that was supposed to fix me. But then I ended up having 9 more after that. Oh. And it really created some issues. And I went really well after those 9 more over about a 2-year period. I didn't have any more. And then this past year, it started up again. And I've had 4 this past year. And so a month ago, I had another surgery to correct the issues that were wrong with the first surgery. It turns out we didn't realize, but there were some mistakes made in the first surgery that ended up causing issues way down the road. So lucky me. But they think they got it taken care of, whatever. But way back when all that was going on, I was on all those, I think about 14 different medications on and off over that 18 years. And I got tired of it. Since I wasn't getting answers, I had been to psychologists and counselors, just, trying to work me through things, and nothing was happening. And the last doctor that I went to said, I think that maybe the best bet would be to send you back to another mental health professional because there's nothing we can do. And that wasn't... So
kind of saying that it's in your head? I mean,
that's basically what he said. In fact, I believe in my book, I think I actually wrote that. That's, what they basically told me. And there was actually, I found out later, some truth to that, not in the sense that I was crazy. It just had a lot to do with my emotions and the physical, or the connection between the emotional and the physical. So anyways, I got sick of it, and I kind of took matter into my own hands and started with some things that had happened in my life that I was interested in and was learning about. I started doing some research. And I started changing my diet. I found out about something called energy work, which I had never heard of before, that focuses on emotions. And I removed toxins from our home. After the energy work, it took me about 5 months to come off the medications, which was amazing because over all those years, I tried at least 2 other times that I can remember with the doctor's help to get off those medications. And I was coming off, breaking the pills into little pieces here and there and just slowly trying to wean myself off. And it didn't work. I couldn't do it. And this time, within 5 months, I was completely off. I was able to find a holistically minded doctor who supported me with herbs and other things nutritionally that helped me get off really fast. And I haven't looked back. So it was amazing. With that and all the experiences and everything that I had, I just realized I'm a pro at this. I want to learn more about it, even more than what I did know. And this is where I want to go and help people. And I had a lot of people asking me questions anyway. How, oh my gosh, you're a different person. How did you do this? And so I was teaching people just on my own through conversations, and I realized there would be more to it. So it was just a matter of waiting and seeing where it would go.
That is great. And that's part of your educational journey as well, is that just kind of going through it, you learned a lot, or was there something else that you feel like you learned with that educational journey that helped you get to this place?
Yeah, I grew up with my mom reading to us. I did go to public school, but I remember her reading to us quite often. I mean, I can even remember the books that she read. I was exposed to that. And as well as kind of healthier eating, she would make whole wheat bread, and we weren't able to shop for like sugar cereals, the typical kid cereals. Those were left for Christmas Day. And so we actually got those, honeycomb or Fruity Pebbles or whatever as a gift for Christmas. And that was the only time that we were allowed to have those when we were growing up. And so, and she used a lot of honey. And so I was kind of exposed to some of that a little bit. They did a little bit with herbs and different things, but nothing major, just enough to plant the seed. And then several years after I got married, I was really interested in preparedness and taking care of my family in everyday life, but also just in case of like emergency or job loss or things like that. And in my research, after several years of doing that, I came across a website about healthy food storage. And I thought, what the heck is that? I had never heard of healthy food storage, but I took a class, an online course on that. And that research, as I got more into that, led to a holistic living conference down in Utah that had classes on self-care and holistic health and homeschooling and all kinds of things that I didn't know much about any of this, but at the same time, it felt right. And I could just like almost feel my heart wanting to burst. I was so excited. Then from there, I learned about energy work. And energy work is basically, we can talk more about that, but it's releasing emotional baggage and balancing the energy systems of your body to bring your body back into a state of homeostasis or balance. And that just changed everything. And it opened up all the doors to learning more and more and more about natural healing and holistic living. And literally, it was amazing when I started down this journey. I'd done some praying and asked for help in all of this and kind of just knowing where God wanted me to go with it. And books, quotes, scriptures, conversations with people, teachers, like they literally just started falling in my lap. And I feel like I had my jaw on the ground almost every day because I didn't even have to look for half the stuff that was coming into my life with this stuff. I realized that it's that awareness. And when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. So I could not stop reading and I couldn't stop going to classes. I started realizing how important it is to take care of our body and our mind and our spirit. And that's where I found my love and passion. So
I really feel like when we find our love and our passion and stuff, like you said, when God will direct us in that path. And then when we find it, like you said, we just have to be ready. And then we know, just because of, I guess, the excitement that you had there was a good indicator of, what your life's mission was. But let's talk a little bit more about your energy work. I think one of the first times I met you, it was at a conference and you had 2 jars. One had really nice things on the jar. It was jars of rice, I think. And then the other had just really horrible things written on it. Give us an idea of what that's about and how that energy and emotion plays into, our health and stuff.
Yeah. And now that you've said that, I realized that I don't even have, I've posted it on Facebook, but I don't have that on my website and a blog post or anything. So I'm actually going to go create a blog post on it and add the jars so people can see the pictures of it. But yeah, so in my studying, I came across or learned about a book called The Hidden Messages in Water and read it. And it talked about a scientist who took water crystals and, it was water and as it was frozen and exposed to positive versus negative words or situations or environments. As it was frozen under this high-powered microscope, the crystals would form either completely beautiful, all organized and uniform, or they would be completely chaotic depending on what they were exposed to. And so like the word love would be look like a snowflake. And then hate would be just this jumbled up mess of unorganized ice. And anyways, he has tons and tons of photos in his book that show how this worked. And it was really fascinating to me. So I started researching that a little bit more online and came across this experiment called the rice experiment. And so what we did, and it's really easy, anybody can do it.
This sounds like a great thing to just do with your family.
Like a family activity. And I've actually done it with my family a couple times. And then I also last year taught a homeschooling group or a class for our homeschool group for the kids. And we did it as a class and it was super fun. But you just take, I used quart jars and you take white rice and just cook the rice just like you're going to eat it for dinner that night and put the rice down in the jars and then put a lid on the jar. We leave ours a little bit loose. Put the lid on the jars, not too tight. I didn't use airtight or anything. We ended up using saran wrap with a rubber band and put them on opposite ends of the kitchen on the counter. So they weren't sitting by each other. And one jar we labeled with a magic marker with mean words, like just negative energy words, hate and ugly and anything that we could think of. At first, we started with just a piece of tape. And this is what was interesting. After just 3 days, the jar that said hate, and that was all that was on there, started getting kind of brownish mold down in the bottom of the corner of the jar. And then the one that said love had nothing. It was still perfectly white rice. So we decided about a week later, and we actually talked to the rice. My kids thought that would be fun. And so we would walk up to it and I told them, start with the bad rice first and end with the good rice. So you're in a good emotional place.
Yeah.
And just say whatever you want to, minus the swearing, no swear words, which we don't swear in our family anyway, but we don't want bad words, but just be mean to it and then be nice to the other rice. And within about a week, it was amazing to see the difference in the rice. The happy rice was still white and the other rice just kept getting more and more mold. After about a week, we decided to kind of up it a little bit. So we took a magic marker and wrote all over the jars with either good or bad stuff. And we kept those jars, we started it in September of 2013. And I think we kept them for about a year and a half.
Wow.
Within about 5 weeks, the pictures that I have that I need to post, the positive rice was still, you could tell that it was starting to break down and get a little bit liquidy, but it was still fluffy and you could tell it was white rice. And the one that we had been mean to was complete mush and turning brown and probably 3 inches of liquid in there. And the rest of it was just mushy. It was disgusting and full of mold. So yeah, it's amazing. It's just amazing. And we haven't done this one. Well, actually we did, but we didn't end up finishing the experiment this time. But we had someone at that conference where I met you tell us you should try one separate that you ignore. Just put it up on a shelf and don't give any attention to it at all. We've done that before a couple of times, and that was the one that was the worst. It turned black.
Oh.
So, wow. And it just made me realize, oh my gosh, even negative, if you're getting attention, that's as bad as it is, that's even better than being completely unacknowledged.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a fun experiment.
That's pretty neat. So tell me how you feel like your overall paradigm philosophy kind of has changed over time and with your experience of the things that you've learned.
Well, I realized that education is not a one-size-fits-all.
We haven't even talked about your homeschooling. That was
I know. And this kind of goes with that and the stuff that I've learned. And I think just because of personal experience, that this is the education that I've had over the past several years and with homeschooling, in addition to my personal education, is just so different than what I had growing up. It's really changed my view on things. I don't think that, like I said, it just can't be a one-size-fits-all. It's got to be kind of an individualized thing that focuses on a couple things, the person's interests and also their personality and the way that they learn, because everybody learns differently. When I was growing up, I didn't like to read. I loved for my mom to read to us, but I could probably count on on 2 hands the number of books I read growing up. And now I love to read. I just fill a whole entire room with books. I've realized that getting an education doesn't mean that you have to sit behind a desk with 30 other students in the room all day with this goal of completing your homework and passing tests. There's so much more to it than that. I think for me, I've learned more and also retained more in the past probably 8 years than I did in all of my schooling, elementary, high school, and college career.
Yeah,
so,
the self-education makes a big difference when we have the interests, that are leading us, and then maybe we also feel a mission or our passion. How do you feel like your family has benefited from homeschooling? Your personal experience? But
yeah,
with family.
My kids are more calm now. They're more confident. So am I. But I just feel like the stress is reduced so huge. They learn what they want to learn. They can come and go as they please. There's just not all the restrictions. We're able to spend more time together as a family. We're not limited to somebody else's schedule. I feel like we as a family are closer together as far as our relationship goes, but my kids get along like they're best friends. And I've noticed we started homeschooling about 3 years ago last month, and they get along better or have in that time period than they ever did before. We don't have the fighting and the bickering and those kinds of things.
When you talk about energy, like we did with the jars, sometimes when they're put in an atmosphere where there's negative energy, that feeds into your home life too.
It does. And they brought home the baggage every day from school. And so we were not only having to deal with our personal stuff that was going on here, but then all the other stuff that they would bring home with them. And so, yeah, I just feel like there was a lot more negativity than what there needed to be. And I mean, we had good days. We had great experiences and things they were able to be involved in and stuff. But overall, it was just more stress than it was not.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. I do love how your mornings, there's no rush, there's no negative energy going on in your household. It's definitely a lot more calm and we move around a lot more peacefully. Before we go on, let's listen to this message.
When we see that our teenagers are empty, we try to fill them with wisdom. But teenagers are not buckets you can pour knowledge into. They are embers that need to be fanned into flames. Lionhearts' mission is to spark these flames by empowering youth to develop deep relationships with themselves, others, and God while accomplishing big things along the way. On April 1st, join Jacob Hansen, Dallin Shumway, and Kiana Chase at the Salt Lake City Library at 7 o'clock for a breakthrough seminar where we will give your youth the tools necessary to find and live their big dream. For more info, visit lionheartmentoring.com.
Welcome back to The Luminous Mind with Jennifer Dayley and IDEALife INNERgy Healing Method and Reel for Pantry. How do you help and serve other people with your business? Maybe tell us about some of the services that you offer and things that you've done to teach people.
well, like I said in the very beginning, people were just noticing the differences in me, physically and emotionally both, and started asking questions. And so I was helping just on an informal basis, just saying, well, here's what I did, and here's what I did, and this is what I did. And, I'd refer them to different books and classes and practitioners and things like that. But since then, and I never planned on going back into business because we lost those businesses after 9/11 and had to give them up. My husband had to go back to a regular job. And so we just did not have in our minds that we would do the self-employment thing again. But as the more I got into it, I just kept getting asked and realized, okay, I need to do something with this. And it wasn't
like a money-making thing.
Yes, it wasn't all about the money. The money was just the bonus. I loved teaching people and helping people. And I realized that I wanted to do it. It wasn't just a job. So I have on my website on the front page, when the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual dots in your life are disconnected from each other, chaos happens. Chaos takes place when your body, mind, and spirit are not being fully nourished. And so basically, I love to work with moms, and I've even worked with some business women, and I have worked with a few men for a while when I still do, but when I started into the energy work, about 25% of my clients were men, which really surprised me. And I've had more women lately, but I do get some men that are really interested, and I've had some talk to me about the food end of things too. But I really like to help them learn how to reconnect the disconnect.
Well, and explain that a little bit more. I mean, what are you meaning by that?
We tend to, if you look at the way that, I'm trying to think I guess the best way I could describe it is we've separated our bodies and our minds and our spirits. So we go to church or in our homes or whatever we do for our spiritual nourishment. Our minds, we go to school or to a therapist for the mind nourishing and healing. And then we go to a conventional doctor for the physical health. And then even with doctors, they've broken off and created a heart specialist and a foot specialist and a, stomach specialist and these things. And so everything, all these dots that used to be one big dot or lots of dots in the same, container that work together, they've been separated, disconnected. And so, but the disconnect doesn't work, because what people don't realize is that if there's something going on with your ears and your hearing, that can actually be related to something in your digestive system or emotions that are going on. And by healing the root of those things, you can heal stuff that if you go to a ear specialist, you might get a hearing aid or a medication to help with something or whatever, but it's not healing the root. And so by healing the root, or if you don't heal the root, then you may have other issues too.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it'd make it worse. I mean,
yeah.
Other things.
Everything's just become so disconnected. And so that's where I mean, my main focus is on emotions / energy, which go together, and food is energy. So to me, the two just really can't be very separated. Although I've tried to separate them for my programs, it's actually been really hard. But so yeah, that's basically what I do. And then by reconnecting the disconnect and going inside yourself, starting from the inside out, we tend to do things from the outside in, and that's just not how it works. Healing and finding ourselves. And so I help people learn how to create their ideal life through working from the inside out and reconnecting those dots.
That's great. That is awesome. And that goes back to homeschooling too. And I think that our educational system that we have, that so many of us have grown up with, everything was very disconnected. And that's one thing that's kind of natural when we bring the education home, is that all of a sudden everything is reconnected in a way. Yep. So yeah, they kind of go together like that. That's great.
Do. And it takes us all back to the holistic way of living. And it's just interesting to me to look back, because the Lord kind of put me on this. He gave it to me all at once. The healing, starting a business, starting homeschooling, moving to the country from the city, all kinds of different things within about a 1.5 year period. And so he said, here you go. I'm handing it to you on a plate and move with it. You know, I didn't get it in little tiny chunks as far as that goes. Holistic living is holistic living, and it can't be separated. It just can't. So,
well, and what did you learn from that obstacle of taking all that on at the same time?
I learned that it's really hard, but I also learned that I can do anything. And I mean, it's not perfect. I'm still working on things, and it's a work in progress, but I learned a whole lot about faith and trusting, praying a lot, trusting in the answers that I receive and taking action on those answers. And if I was going to do this, I couldn't just sit still and wait for things to happen. I had to do it.
Yeah. I think a lot in our society, too, is that so many of us are depending on so many outside resources, you know, either a school or this particular group that we're with, or the friends that we have. And we don't rely enough on that, like you said, the faith and having that experience with God, you know, and really having that faith. So it's pretty awesome when we can kind of acknowledge that and recognize it and then move forward. I think that's one thing I learned about homeschooling, is that it did take some faith.
Yeah.
So
well, and it's been great too. I didn't know what I was doing, you know, and we're still working through some things. We're still, just this year, we've made some changes on, but that's the great thing, is that if something's not working, you can move on to something else and make a change and try it another way. And I've found that in my business too. And I love that my kids can watch me in the business and with homeschool. They're realizing that they can do what they want to do. If something's not working, they can change it. And it's taught them a lot about listening to their intuition and paying attention to what God wants them to do with their life too.
Yeah,
so
definitely that you're mentoring them in that experience. Yeah. So great.
Yeah.
So tell me testimonials, maybe some successes that you've seen along the way as you've been integrating all of this stuff into your life as with your business.
Well, I can start with my first testimonial. And like I said, that was coming off of all those years of medications. And then I also lost about 50 pounds. So that was huge for me.
Wow.
Yeah. As far as clients go, I have several testimonials on the website, but I've had everything from one lady who had gallbladder attacks for a long time, for years. I did a session with her, and about 4 days later, it completely went away, and she hasn't had any issues since. Another lady who had knee problems and couldn't bend that now can.
Wow.
People who struggle with self-worth or emotional issues like, you know, depression and anxiety. Some people kind of get this idea that just by having an energy or emotional release session done, or by, you know, changing your diet, that it's just going to be a flip of the switch and all of a sudden everything's going to be good. And for me, that happened on some things. It was immediate, and then other things were over time. And so you've got to kind of work with it and give things time to shift and change. One of the greatest things, even though I have seen miracles happen physically and emotionally, both with people coming out of these low places that they've been in, and even physical conditions heal, some quick and some slow. I remember one lady that I worked with from England who her conditions didn't go away. And whether that was because she was holding on to it because it was serving her a purpose, or whether it was because it was God's purpose and he needed her to learn something. I don't know. But what she did say, in fact, I've got it right here. She said, anytime you have to deal with a chronic disease or chronic pain, it can make you feel out of control, and you just can't seem to focus past those lousy feelings that accompany that kind of physical, mental, and emotional discomfort. Wow. After my session, I immediately felt a sensation of peace throughout my body and felt more at ease and accepting of my condition. I now focus on understanding my condition and look to it as a message my mind, spirit, and body is telling me. More importantly, I no longer feel that it defines who I am, but rather it enhances my being. My thinking and feelings have really shifted, and I no longer feel afraid.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Yeah.
I love being able to teach people the difference between healing and curing, because sometimes healing isn't always curing. But if I had the choice, especially knowing, with what I've been through, and I had to choose physical or mental curing versus the healing, I would take the healing any day.
Yeah. And it is interesting how much the food or our physical body and taking care of our physical sense helps our emotions, as well. And it is kind of like, it's kind of like a garden. You talked about the healing being slow, but if you go out and weed and take care of the garden once, yeah, it's going to look good. But what's going to help those plants be really healthy and that garden be wonderful is that long-term care,
Yep.
That it can't just happen overnight, that it's got to be something that's slow and mindful. And
it is, and a continual nourishment.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So tell me maybe some personal habits that you feel are most helpful to your success and your own healing.
Definitely daily prayer and listening for the answers, not just ending my prayer and then getting up and doing something else, just sitting there and kind of listening and paying attention. And then throughout the day, even when I'm not formally praying, paying attention to my thoughts. Try to have the quiet moments throughout the day where I can just sit and listen and take action on any of that inspiration that I do receive. I read a lot. Oh my goodness, I read a lot. I love reading. Let's see what else. I am getting better at, thanks to one of my business coaches, I'm getting better at taking time for myself and spending more time with my children. I really struggled with the mom guilt factor of running a business and trying to homeschool and being a business person and a mom, not feeling like I was giving the balance that I needed to. And so, because I didn't know how to do that. And so I've been getting my systems set in place this past year to where I feel like I'm getting a pretty good grasp on, I don't know if it's balanced, but I feel like it is balanced of giving attention to my business, but also to my family and to myself. And taking that personal time in addition to the business time is really important so that we're not plummeting on the scale on one side.
Yeah, you can't give away what you don't have.
No,
that kind of thing. So
you can't. So, but yeah, honestly, I think that prayer, journaling, focusing on gratitude, the things that I'm grateful for, and taking that personal time, being close to God, all those things. I try to read my scriptures every day. Just, I can't leave the spiritual end out of it, because he's the reason that I got on this road in the first place. And he's the reason that I healed so much and that I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I'd say that that's the biggest part of it.
Well, and I've found too, especially running my podcast and my own business and doing kind of the same thing, that when I put those things first, the spiritual side, of the prayer and the study and then the journaling, that somehow everything else, I just seem to manage it. Like you said, you finally feel balanced just because of that. So that's great. Great. So tell me about what your long-term vision looks like and how you hope to serve other people in the future. And I guess that kind of goes along with our legacy question, of what legacy you hope to leave.
Yeah, I started with just a few clients here and there and referrals, just doing a little bit of individual education with the food and then working with people with the energy sessions. And I now teach, I do trainings on teaching people how to do energy work and creating actually their own method. And then I also have my book that I wrote called The Real Food Pantry Makeover and the online course, and I'm growing that to create a whole entire program around real food pantry makeovers in the home. And so my vision as of now, where I've mostly been working locally up until this past year, is I'm moving obviously I've worked with people in other countries the last couple of years too, but I want to expand that and work more with people across the nation and in other countries. And I'm so grateful for the internet because we do that through coaching online and phone and those kinds of things. And so, yeah, I'd love to be able to eventually, in fact, I'm working on the program right now to go into homes, whether it's in person or online, to help them not only training in energy, but with the Real Food Pantry Makeover to do more of the coaching. I like the individual sessions, but I love the teaching end of things. So to be able to expand that is really what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of fun with the internet. You can easily run a business, homeschool, and, be a really great wife and mother too, because you're, you're not having to run somewhere, that you're there right there.
Yep.
Hopefully when they need you. So, Great. Before we say goodbye, do you have any final parting words of advice or maybe a favorite quote you'd like to share? And then please give us your contact information, how our audience can get in touch with you.
I do. I've got a couple things. Let go of the fear. Fear was one of my biggest things growing up and throughout my adulthood. That was my word. I lived in fear. Probably a lot of people know this. It stands for false evidence appearing real. I
have never heard that. Say that again. That's awesome.
Yeah. False evidence appearing real.
Wow.
Amazing.
That's powerful.
Yeah. Very powerful. And I also learned that there's two kinds of fear. There's the one that, Satan wants us to be gripped by, that we can't move and it paralyzes us. And then there's the other one that's, like the fear of God. It's the one that humbles us and motivates us and helps us to kind of stay on the path and have vision. And so I decided that I would work with that fear instead of fighting against it. And when I start to feel that I would just get centered and really try to focus on what my purpose is in that moment, and then have the vision of where I wanted to go. And so anyways, with that, we need to remember that we're children of God. And so we have the most powerful person behind us, and we can't fail if we involve him in what we're doing.
And he wants to see us succeed.
He does. He does. He's sad if we don't succeed. And so why wouldn't he do everything he can to help us? But he wants us to come to him and do our part too. I do have a quote that I want to read, but in addition to the fear, love yourself and treat your body with respect. He gave us these bodies to house our spirits. And I have just grown to realize how much more I'm capable of by nourishing my body and my mind and my spirit. And by doing that and slowing down and simplifying, I've realized that I'm capable of a whole lot more than what I used to believe that I am. So, and creating this homeschool, creating this business, creating the things that go along with the business and the things that I do in my family. I'm a creator. I'm just a creator and I'm a connector, and I love that. And so the quote that I was thinking of that I would love, it's actually kind of been floating around Facebook a little bit lately, but I love it. It's by Thomas S. Monson, and it says, God left the world unfinished for man to work his skill upon. Wow. He left the electricity in the cloud, the oil in the earth. He left the rivers unbridged, the forests unfelled, and the cities unbuilt. God gives to us the challenge of raw materials, not the ease of finished things. He leaves the pictures unpainted and the music unsung and the problems unsolved, that we might know the joys and glories of creation.
Wow. And that gives us so much growth.
Yes.
He knows that struggling through some of those things to be a creator gives us a lot of growth.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's what we're here to do, is to grow.
Very inspiring. Thank you. So, and then give us your contact information, how our audience can get in touch with you.
Yes, my website is my name, www.Jennifer, Jennifer, Dayley, and that is DAYLEY.com. Dayley spelled a little bit different there. And then I also have my Facebook page, which is, let me make sure I get the address on that right, facebook.com/The Healing Place .Jennifer Dayley. And from the website, I have my food programs, my book, the energy trainings, lots of information in the about and the FAQs, and there's a contact page where you can email me, and I'm pretty good at getting back to people. So I, usually within 24 hours or less, unless an email gets lost, I try to get back to people. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out.
Great. And we will link all that up on our website so that people could find it easily too. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us. I knew you were going to be wonderful, and you were very inspiring.
You are too. Thank you.
Great.
And I appreciate you inviting me to do this. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about Jennifer Dayley, go to our show notes at theluminousmind.net. Be sure to become a subscriber to our free email list and get our new monthly newsletter. Then check out our services tab to see how we can continue to assist you, our fire starters. Also, to help us continue production of inspiring content, go to the sponsor tab at theluminousmind.net for more information on sponsorship and affiliate programs. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Google+, and now Pinterest. Get our free audio content by subscribing on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. To help us grow, consider these easy ways. Tell your friends about us, leave us a review, share our content. Tell us how we can help you so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.